be it. Okay. Welcome to our town hall committee meeting, planning committee meeting, town hall. Tonight's, we're going to basically be presenting three groups of sort of capital improvements. You know, capital improvements is some of it's R&R. Okay, okay, all right. I thought I was loud enough for everybody here. So we'll get that slide back up. And then I'll get on with the capital improvements town hall meeting. But first, Leaf would like to say just a couple of words about, I guess, who we are. Who we are? Who we are? Go to slide 4, you'll see it.
We on? Here we are.
Yep.
Well, good evening, everybody. On behalf of the board, thanks for showing up this evening. The planning committee that you see in front of you here does yeoman's work for our community, and they have done so for years. I guess a couple of the points that I want to make sure everybody understands is they're not the ones who come up with the things that you're going to see this evening. The majority of what's going to be presented here this evening came from the members. This is what members suggest. This is what members ask for in the community. It's not something that the planning committee goes and sits in a vacuum and comes up with these ideas. So understand when you're asking them questions, their job is to collect this information, distill it, analyze it, and provide their best recommendations to the board, who's ultimately responsible for making decisions about what we spend money on, what we add or increase to our community. So it's not in an attempt to get you to take it easy on them, but just to understand why they exist and what they're here to do. They're going to talk about new asset and improvement requests. They're going to talk about R&R. They're going to talk about projects that will be coming up on the LMIP, the Lakes Management Improvement Program, which is derivative from the AMT report in 2021, which gave us $20 million worth of projects over 20 years. So that has to get distilled down into bite-sized chunks, 5-year and 10-year horizons. But all of that is what they're going to cover this evening. And I would like to thank each member of the planning committee because they put an awful lot of time and effort into this. And this process has been improving over the number of years that I've been on the board. And I think we're at a really good point right now where they're working collaboratively with members, staff, finance committee, and the board to put forth the best possible recommendations they can with as much information as can be collected. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Leaf. My name is Jim Klein, and I have the honor of being your chair for this year. We'll see what happens after this. Leaf, you took some of my reasons for the next slide, which would be the reason we're having a meeting. The reason we're having this meeting is because we have compiled through membership, through staff, through staff and management lists of NA&Is, which an NA&I is basically a new asset and improvement request that comes from everybody. We start to send something out in May, and hopefully by, what did I do wrong now? Okay. Bear with me. This is my first time being in charge of this group. All right. So tonight we are presenting three groups of, I'm going to call it money, three groups of cash that has to be spent or not spent. Remember, everything gets spent at the discretion of the board. So no matter how great some of these NNAIs are, and we will be voting on them, final voting, and some of them get really rated high, and they get put in the side because we just can't afford them. So bottom line is we're presenting new asset and improvements. We are presenting M&E committee, and that's really who we're working with a lot on collaboration right now. The M&E committee, former chair, Jack Simons, is going to presenting what they think the LMIP stormwater management system or capital improvements is the stage it's at now and what they're recommending to go forward. Then last but not least, Ben Burrow, the current chair of the M&E committee, will be talking about the top 100,000 and above items that are currently in the R&R report draft. It just came in, 265 pages. We got it maybe 3 days ago. So some of this stuff we haven't concealed, we haven't hid. There's no conspiracy going on. We just got it, or we just got it put together. So please understand that. What is a capital expenditure? In our charter and our procedure, that we actually do have a procedure, it's on the website. Any item that is a physical asset that needs to be replaced, not replaced, excuse me, needs to be enhanced or new, over $3,500, we consider a capital improvement. You're going to see costs greater than $3,500 that we actually kicked out. And we kicked them out for two reasons for this year. One was they were on the R&R report, meaning they come in, it used to be the Miller-Dodson report, now it's the DMA report. They're on that report. Maybe they're not in this year, this coming year, maybe they were down further, but they're still in that report, so they're really not in our ballywag of putting a new asset and improvement together. And then you're going to see someone that came in and we just decided it was an operations cost. So that we kicked out too. So what you're seeing now is the 13 remainders for a capital that are proposed capital improvements. Go on to the next slide. Your budget. Now this slide for some reason didn't break out, but if you look at your budget, it's made up of 3 big items, which is operations, which is your staff cost, your outside contracting cost. It's listed there. I'm not going to read the whole slide. Your capital improvements that we're going to be talking about tonight, and capital improvements that have been on the 5-year capital plan. Maybe they weren't in this year's budget. Maybe they got approved for next year's budget, or maybe they're approved for 4 years from now. And repair and replacement. Repair and replacement and operations, I hate to say it, makes the new asset and improvement look like the black sheep of the family. It is not well funded, and it's purely at the discretion of the board, and it's how much money do we have left after we paid everything else up. Next slide, please. So let's get into it. Proposed new assets and improvement projects submitted by staff, members, and I'm going to say management. Purpose of the NA&I reserve. The NA reserve is what's left over. What I talked about before. You know, it's after all the R&R is taken care of, after all your operations are taken care of, the board sets aside a certain amount of money on approved NA&Is that they approve. You know, we suggest they approve. Funds for approved projects remain there until the project is either complete or the board cancels them. I'm going to go through some last year's NA&Is and you'll see some that get canceled. Next slide, please. We have a policy, as I mentioned before, back in 2023, Ali Fender, if everybody remembers him, and the group committee at the time put together a full NA&I procedure and policy. There never really was one. We always did the same thing, but there wasn't an approved policy. Now we have an approved policy. It's on our website. Maybe, as I was telling Chris, you know, we've looked at it 4 times, and when we go through the items that we're marking up our voting, it says 7, but we still have 6 up at the top paragraph. So, you know, we're only human. Yeah. So some of the things go into the 5-year capital plan, as I said. And if they're not approved, I will actually write a letter to everybody that sent in an NA&I, and I'm sure there's some people out there that got more than one from me last year. I can't send them out until after the budget's approved, because sometimes at the last minute, they come in and they go out. So you don't get your letter, I hate to say it, until the budget is approved. Then I can start to send them out. So last year I sent out 23. This is a lean year. We only have 13 that we're actually going to review. Next slide, please. This is I'm going to go through these two slides are last year's approved NA&Is that we, at the end of our voting, were told that they were going to put in the budget, the base budget, before it really started getting first pass budget. We're going to put in most of the approved NA&Is. Well, obviously, a lot of them got cut after they made the first pass of the budget. Some of them got approved or cut after the third pass. So the clubhouse shade structure was an NA&I that we approved last year. It was put on hold at one point, and then the money was taken for other items, and it was deleted. The golf simulator was completed, up and running. The Keaton's Lake, getting the water source through the golf irrigation system, was approved for review for getting an engineering study, and it's still on hold. The RV boat storage gate automation is basically on hold. I still have a cipher lock key code that I have to put in, which everybody else gets for some reason. Environmental resources, it was the increased capacity of 9.9. This was like, it was one of the cheapest NA&Is last year. It's the one that's got the highest votes, and I think it's the one that was the best beneficial use of the property, up behind 9.9 so we can put in more dredging sludge. And that's completed now. The door controls, the NA&I said it was for the community center in Holcomb. Well, 7.5 doesn't get you to both of them. So the one for the community center is back in this year, and we'll be looking at that. The one for Holcomb was installed and operating. Fitness center window tinting. We actually approved, I think it was shades at the time we approved it. Somebody came up with a very good idea of just doing the window film. So that saved a lot of money, and that's done. The water station at the golf course is on hold. It was approved for 3.5, which is just, if it had been 3.4, it probably could have been done in R&R and may have been completed by now. But it's 3.5, it's on hold. It's basically the question, do we put in just a water station, or do we put in an ice machine with it? So that's still being discussed. R&R reserve, last year we had to take money from the R&R budget or the capital budget and help pay off the main gate. So that was the approved NA&R capital budget from last year. Let's get on to this sheet. Next slide, please. Maybe I should have had a handout too, because what this does is basically list the NA&Is, and I promised the pickleball people I would talk about it, even though we kicked it out. Was the Hollyfields pickleball court replacement, moving it up further. Well, moving it up further, it's in the NA&I, so we did not consider it a new asset and improvement. Number 7 was reordering the schedule for Westover stream restoration. There was a phase 1, phase 2. I think phase 2 is currently still in the R&R budget. Phase 1 we thought was basically in the R&R budget at one point, so shouldn't be considered a new NA&I. Jack will disagree with me on that one. The golf, there was some golf equipment that was requested, and basically it was a replacement for stuff that was in the R&R budget. So being that those items were in the R&R budget. We kicked that one out. And the last one was adding some additional staffing up at the 9.9 to monitor who's throwing the wrong trash in there. And we kicked that one out. So we're going to go through the 13 remainders at this point, and we'll be kicking it back and forth for different people to handle it. Next slide, please. This slide is for, okay. Steve is going to go through this one.
The request was for lights at the Sweetbriar basketball courts. This was actually originally submitted last year, and we did approve it, but it fell through the cracks after the budget got approved. Basically, the request is to add lights to the facility. The plan is to go ahead and add those. They will be lights that will have sufficient shielding to prevent glaring on the houses that are around there. Also, they will be timed so that they will turn off at some point in the evening, as yet to be determined. The target group here was obviously the kids that are out there playing basketball. It's evidently very heavily used, particularly in the spring and fall months. And that's pretty much all that we're looking for here.
I forgot to mention Steve is the vice chair of our committee, and he is liaison to fairways and community activities. Dick Unser is going to present the next slide.
This is a staff proposal that we enhance and improve the entry access to the pickleball and tennis courts at Hollyfield Park. The thought is right now we just have a keypad system for the courts that once you know the once you know the code for it, anybody can use it anytime, really. And there's no way of tracking who uses the courts because it's anonymous about who put the code in to access the courts. So what the proposal is that we use a proximity card reader there, much like we have at the fitness center and other buildings on the property, to gain access to the courts, so that once you've paid your amenity fee, then your membership card would be coded so that you could swipe your card against the lock at Hollyfield for pickleball or tennis. They could track who's using the courts by whose proximity card was used to gain access. It's also nice from a standpoint of if something goes wrong or something happens out the courts, they can look back at the log and find out, who was there and maybe find some more information about what happened. So there's good safety security reasons for this proposal. And again, it would be an improvement and enhancement over the current manual lock system that we have. So and they're proposing spending around $20,000 to do that, since it'll have to be integrated, the card reader integrated with the internet system, put out there so that it can tie in with our tech control system.
Thank you, Dick. The next slide will be presented by Kathleen Dorn, our liaison to security and the Equestrian Center.
We have a significant number of handicapped individuals here that have mentioned challenges getting to various buildings. Over the years, we've added ADA access to several of our buildings, including Clubhouse. And some of these handicapped members have expressed the wish for an easier way to utilize this community center so that they can attend meetings and maybe even be on committees. They feel the door is a barrier for many types of the durable medical equipment that they use, including wheelchairs and crutches and such. Or some people that may have weak arms or weak hands find it a challenge trying to open the heavier doors. So a lot of times if they're by themselves, this is a challenge, or they have to have somebody come and assist them to opening the doors. So in accordance with the guidelines under the American Disabilities Act, this particular request proposes that we install a push-button door access at the front entrance of the community center, similar to what we have at the fitness center and Fairways Cafe. The proposed cost of this would be around $10,000. The next slide.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Next slide, please. Kathleen will still present this one.
There was, I don't know if you remember, about a month ago, when we had this heavy rainstorm that nobody expected, there was an incident. This was the night of June 14th. We sustained a massive rain and windstorm and caused a lot of dangerous flooding at the back gate, starting at the roadway culverts. And then it traveled all the way up to the back gate. With the existing lighting, the culvert area where the flooding originated was too dark and security was unable to see the water rising at the back gate before it became flooded. There was also a broken fence that they couldn't see through their camera. And this is where people were attempting to enter and exit through the floodwater and debris, and that was causing a lot of safety hazards. So security personnel feels that this area that had the area been properly lighted, they would have been able to see the level of water prior to flooding at the back gate. And if that had happened, they would have been able to be aware of the need to dispatch personnel earlier to that location to assist in either closing off the area, providing traffic control, or calling assistance from the county. Additionally, they would have been able to alert the LOWA members to avoid the back gate and areas of flooding and avoid the potential danger. Now, part of the concern is that even though there were no fatalities or serious injuries, there could have been in the future. And what happens too many times is a lot of issues are not mitigated until there's an injury or a death. And we certainly don't want to see that here. So after consulting with a member of M&E, the community that has extensive experience in construction, the estimated cost of this would be around $25,000. This is one suggestion that has been proposed and most likely will be reviewed for additional considerations, maybe even discussions with VDOT. So, excuse me while I turn my page. We request Main Gate project comparable cost insights to be forwarded by the LOWA Capital Manager, Projects Manager for confirmation or amendment of this proposal. In other words, it's going to be under consideration and they're requesting formal project management to consider this. So
Thanks. Thank you, Kathleen. Our next slide, Chris Colley will present. Chris is our current secretary of the committee and liaison to the Gulf Group.
Thank you, Jim. This project was also proposed last year, but it's a proposal for a trailer-mounted digital message board. The author of the submission suggested it could be done in a single color, monochrome, or a full color dot matrix, running costs from $17,000 to $28,000. The proposal suggests it would improve communications to members at needed areas of the community, provide safety warning messages at a physical location where needed.
Thank you, Chris. Jack Simon will present our next slide, one of our newest voting members on the committee.
So a best management practice, or BMP, is a project as conceived by A. Morton Thomas in their 2022 report to us. They racked and stacked a number of projects, and Lake of the Woods has undertaken hole number 10, their number 2 priority. The Hollyfield Pond is part of Patrick Henry, which was the number 3 priority, and the Yorktown Pool, it was the number 4 priority. You're going to see later on that the number 1 priority, hole number 13, was planned for 2024, but it's got a pretty significant price tag at $800,000. So the M&E committee it recommended that we go for lower hanging fruit with changing and enhancing hole number 1, which was priority number 5 in AMT's priority list. And this would slightly enlarge the existing pond, which covers a watershed of some 13 acres. The main benefit of this project, this proposed project at $157,000 is to provide a sediment trap measure before the stormwater flows hit the main lake. So we would better control sediment, and the outlet structure would also help with stormwater detention and reduce flooding risk to Lakeview Parkway and the surrounding properties.
Thank you, Jack. Jack, this number was for the design, and I think that's what M&E is proposed. Who submitted this one? Was it M&E? It was M&E. Okay. What they're proposing is, let's get the design started. And I think you're going to start to hear this theme in a lot of our major capital improvements. Let's start really laying it out a lot better, getting everything we need from design, from everybody that's involved in it, meaning the golf committee is going to be involved in this, meaning finance is going to be involved in this. You got management, you got staff. So you'll hear this a little bit further on. Jack will go into a new committee that we had, an ad hoc committee about capital projects. Next slide. Tom Baylor is going to be talking about, and he's our liaison to the fitness committee.
This item has to do, as you can see there, with the stairway that comes down from the fitness center down to Lake of the Woods Way, that top roadway there. There's actually two major benefits to it. You can't really see it in the picture here, but that stairway drops you right into the road. I mean, boom, you're in the road. Families coming from both pools and fitness center, et cetera. It has also been run into several times. And so it's a danger in terms of running into it, and it's a danger for people walking it. The other thing, you see it a little bit there, there's a culvert underneath it that doesn't really drain well. You get sitting water on both sides of this thing. So it would really help both of those things. So it's primarily the safety issue, but also a drainage issue. It cost $11,000 is the estimate.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Back to Steve. Steve is going to do the next slide at the fairways.
This particular request was submitted last year, but obviously it wasn't done due to financial reasons. It originated way back in 2021, 2022 with what was known as the Wood Center Ad Hoc Committee, a much larger version, a much larger expansion of the Wood Center, and the Fairways Kitchen was proposed in that ad hoc committee. This one will expand the kitchen area approximately 170 square feet. If you look at the picture here where the cart is, we'll bring the kitchen all the way out to that roof line at the back, which would be the 170 square feet. There's also some new equipment that's been put in there. The main reason for this is the workflow within the kitchen area. There are a couple of grills, if anyone's ever been back in there. They're horizontal behind the bar instead of vertical, so that the wait staff have to continually walk back and forth through the area. The cooks are continually bumping into each other and moving from place to place. So it's mostly an efficiency thing. It will include some heat lamps, which they do not currently have in there, as well as some refrigerator equipment. The approximate cost when originally put together was about $85,000. And the main focus here is efficiency within the kitchen, hopefully customer satisfaction, the food comes out quicker. A lot of times people complain about that. The heat lamp supposedly will keep everything hotter. And so the goal here is to improve customer satisfaction and hopefully retain better staff.
Thank you, Steve. Our next slide. Scott Dorn is going to present. Scott is our liaison to the Lakes Committee.
Okay, so this particular project is for the replacement of the clamshell truck that's used in our dredging operations with a cat-wheeled excavator and loader. For background, just so you're aware, each year management establishes goals for removing sediment from the two lakes. And over the past several years, we've had difficulty hitting these targets for a variety of reasons. Manpower, lead time on parts. The parts for the clamshell truck have to come from Italy. And also the inefficiency of the dredging operation itself. The one exception to hitting the targets was actually this past year, but we were able to achieve over 100% of our goals or targets because we were contracting for the dredging of Keaton's Lake with a third party. So the reason for the request of replacement of the clamshell truck is it's currently one of the slowest components of the dredge operation. The inefficiencies come from it having a very slow arm. It has a short reach, and full loads can't be moved safely. The equipment actually will tilt when we've got full loads of materials. So some of the benefits for replacing the equipment are the faster dredging operations, ability to handle heavier loads, ability to meet our annual dredging goals and targets internally. This equipment would be wheeled and have a reach of approximately 40 feet, so it can be used for cleaning out ponds and doing some of the other BMP work that Jack had mentioned. And it also would be available for emergency readiness. So if we had trees down, if there was dam repair necessary in an emergency, this equipment would be available for that as well. The cost to Lake of the Woods is $550,000. This is obviously an expensive piece of equipment, but the dredging is important. I think the risks, if it's not done, are the sediment builds up in the lakes. We have the risk for algae blooms. We have reduced depths in our coves. We've seen what happens when the water levels drop and people aren't able to get their boats out. The sediment removal should equal what is coming in for loading. So if we're not keeping up with it, it's going to create additional problems. The alternative is we continue doing what we're doing with our existing equipment, and we outsource some part of that, but the outsourcing is expensive. I can tell you that the Keaton's Lake project was a little over $200,000 over this past year. So,
Thank you, Scott. Back to Kathleen, the next slide on the front gate.
This one involves an issue that I think everybody's aware of. There's been a lot of heartburn over the front gate construction since the get-go. There's been two main problems that have been identified by the member who submitted this. One is that there's concerns that the signage associated with the gate doesn't match what they call the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, MUTCD, which could cause some issue. And the other is that it's not open all the time. And apparently the plan was never to have it open all the time, because to have it open all the time, it requires another extra personnel. And to have a person there, you really have to have it manned for all 3 shifts with an extra person to cover vacation and holidays and sick leave and whatever. And it's expensive, to say the least. And I don't think that was adequately communicated, because apparently that never got across. So their plan and what we have is an installation of a hinge gate at the visitor lane number 2 that could be opened when it was needed. And then additional security would, when they had additional staff available, or when they had to hire extra people, like with holidays, for instance. But since installation, there's been a lot of feedback from members about the gates, the problem with the manual, the signage, as I mentioned, and a lot of problems with the fact that people aren't sure where to go. I mean, people come in and they see the sign directing you to the lane where the shack is, and they don't want to get in an extra lane because, you know, they're going to be the last man out. So it really isn't working the way it was planned. So this particular request proposes to remove the swing gate altogether, and put it on another part of the property, then extend the concrete island off the new guard shack, install a typical barrier gate that could be accessed by members when the secondary shack is not manned. And possibly this could allow members to have 2 operational lanes at all times, unless there's a visitor backup requiring security to, you know, man the second gate. If they don't do this, just addressing the sign issue would cost about $10,000 to $20,000. The cost of this proposal, removing the gate and extending the barrier, would cost about $50,000. So his proposal is to go ahead and bite the bullet and spend the $50,000 and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. This is something that's probably going to be under further review. The proposal would have to be verified that the signage that he's proposing would actually met the requirements of the M2CD board. And, you know, it would have to be studied to make sure this would actually work. So.
Thank you, Kathleen. Next slide. Chris Golly will be presenting this one.
Good. Thank you, Jim. As Jim mentioned early on, this project was approved last year and then taken from the budget when financial concerns were evident. It's been reproposed at the same amount and supposedly the same kind of structure. We discussed it and recognized the cost of it, wonder about other options that might be pursued. Just tonight, for example, I ate on the deck and they had a lot of new umbrellas there. They did a pretty good job, I thought, of blocking the sun. But in any event, this is the same proposal that emanated last year and is again under consideration for a target year of 2026 at a cost of $22,500.
Thank you, Chris. We are trying to give an unbiased opinion on these at this point. You know, we really want feedback, so bear with us if we go off track a little bit. And speaking of unbiased opinion, this is slide number 23. I'll be presenting this one. This was last year. It was proposed by a member, and the way it came in the NA&I was, it said tiny houses. Okay, got it up there. It was for tiny houses. It was proposed for like a 55 and older community. I get called on to go to another committee. Pete Brown just left, but he's the chair of it, called Spaces and Places. And we're sort of looking at all of our properties. Are they being the best used? So I happened to raise the NA&I that we had last year, and Pete says, okay, go ahead and do something with it. So I got Alan Priesta, the former chair from last year, to work with this. And we did a little research on, you know, backing for the 55 and older community. It's not here. The backing for developing a purely a section that would have its own rules, regulations, and stuff like that. There doesn't seem to be too much backing for that. So with that said, what we said is, here's something else. Here's something we could do. We could take a piece of the campground. That's where we had proposed the tiny houses too. Take a piece of the campground, divide it up into sellable lots that you could build on. I put in smaller houses, you know, 15,000 square feet, 16,000, current 1,500, excuse me, 15,000 would be pretty big. Even a lot of people don't have that. So you can get a 3-bedroom, 2-car garage, open space floor plans now, first floor on that size piece of property. I'm not going to get into the details as much. I did do a drawing. I did divide it up into certain pieces of property. It's the concept that I really like to hear from you on it. This is a big concept. Do you want to take a piece of property that we don't use anymore? It's campground B. It's not been used probably in 20 years. And divide it up and sell it. We could take in, that's actually a fairly easy estimate of $950,000 that we could get. It's the concept that we really want to hear from everybody. What do you think about that? We can divide it up into different types of property. The builder is responsible for the utilities. To me, that's all details. To get over the hump of this, will we even want to consider this? We'd get $1 million into our budget, but we'd give up green space. So I came up with it, and I don't know if I'm for it or against it yet. Unbiased opinion. Okay. Steve reminded me. Next slide, I'll take care of also, was proposed by a member. And this definitely proved that we don't shut the door on August 1st. I think this came in a little later, and the member that presented it asked me to consider it. So we're considering it. What you see on the right side is the standard map that I guess you get with your closing documents, or you can buy extra ones over at Holcomb. This is a new one. Mine's just plain blue, so that's how long I've been here. And the one on the left is a resort map. In other words, if you go down to Virginia Beach, you go to Williamsburg, you can pick up these maps all over the place, and some of them have advertisements all around them. So the concept is, it would be she used the word interactive. It's not in the NA&I, but it's basically an illustrated map where you have better pictures of our amenities around the lake. And maybe you have a spot around the map for sales. So that's what this NA&I is. We'd like your opinion on this one also. That is our NA&Is that was submitted this year. All 13 of them. What I'd like to do is turn the microphone over to Jack Simons for a little while, because he was the chair of our Capital Projects Ad Hoc Committee. And again, the concept of let's slow down, let's do it right, is resonating throughout the community now. So Jack, if you'd go through the next slide, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. The Capital Projects Ad Hoc Committee was established in April by the board and
Louder.
Given, Dawn, can you hear me? Something went off. Now? Yes. I still had a green light. Capital Projects was established in April by the board and given a specific charter. We had 7 members from the planning, finance, and M&E committees, 2 board liaisons, and 3 members of staff. We delivered a final report per request on July 31st. We were tasked to evaluate LOWA resources for undertaking larger capital projects. Do we have the horsepower to do these things? We were to judge whether LOWA can achieve on-time, on-budget completions, and to provide recommendations to ensure that kind of successful performance. So the final report had 10 primary recommendations and 1 conclusion that we establish greater due diligence up front. We advocated a design year for major projects and an independent cost consultant to give the board a final best look at a project before they give final approval for construction. We advocated additional resources. Yes. To fill and retain the maintenance and ecology and environmental department positions, some of which are still vacant. We wanted to evaluate the need for outsourcing project management services. And like the CARC project, we hired that kind of independent project management to advise and help manage projects. We wanted the board to fund greater due diligence. the pre-construction time to evaluate what our expectations are and have projects in good focus. We wanted to improve protocols and in particular assign a single LOWA project manager to every capital project. This was a lesson learned in the CHAR report for the clubhouse refresh project. We advocated use of the LOWA QMS procedure for project management. And that document was in draft form in 2008 and can be quickly revised, updated, and implemented. We think it's a very good piece. We want to require greater project documentation and analysis, particularly upfront, but also in reporting, to increase pre-construction due diligence. We hope that LOWA will undertake an annual evaluation of capacity to manage capital projects between management and the board and the various constituencies. Do we have the horsepower to undertake what we hope to plan? The planning committee would rate the complexity of a project and just how much management capability do we need to assign for things that are more risky, more visible, more complex, or higher dollar value. Those things would all be worthy of more project management resources to control the projects. And we recommended to employ competitive bid of design services with the same diligence that we undertake hiring vendors and contractors. So the bottom line, we were asked to comment on whether we had the current capacity, and we thought not. And we recommended that the board defer large, significant capital projects for at least a year and consider undertaking one or two pilot projects when the revised capabilities and processes were in fact in place. And so we recommended slowing things up in the capital campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. I asked Jack to tell us about the ad hoc committee because I'm anticipating, and I guess I'm a member. I know where my money goes. And I think a lot of comments would have been if I didn't tell Jack to present what the ad hoc committee did. We can't do it. You know, we haven't been doing well on it. So this is what we're proposing to do it better. So next slide, please. Where do the NNIs go from here? It says we evaluate for completeness, value, and relevance. I'm going to say value as a benefit to the community, relevance as if it's needed or not needed. Completeness, no, we haven't been doing a good job. I'm going to try and redo the form a little bit, but we're not an estimating committee. We're not a scheduling committee. We get what we get from you, from the members and from staff. We're going to revise the form a little bit so that it has a little bit more space for an estimate. We're going to have revised the form so it has a little bit more space for return on investment. And we're going to say, please get this in. And that one of the other things I forgot to mention before was we're really going to push, if you're by yourself, you're a member and you got a great idea, don't be by yourself. Get together with a committee. Get some help in putting a schedule together or what you really think it's going to cost. Don't do it by yourself. Yes, you can. Believe me, it's going to have a lot more power if you get together with a committee and get them behind your idea. We will, at this point, start to gather up all information from members, comments, criticisms, suggestions on various NA&Is. Please, if you can give them to me in writing, it's a lot better. I'm not taking shorthand tonight. So, we'll try and remember, but please, at the end of the program, I'm going to, they'll give you a place where you send it to me. I have to compile every comment I've already gotten from everybody sitting next to me and some other people on social media. And then I'll be compiling that along with, I got to send out the complexity thing that Jack mentioned. That's new this year. We're going to do something like 1 to 5. What do we think the complexity is? Is somebody just going out and buying a sign or a replacement truck? Or are they actually getting into a project? And we're going to try and rate that 1 through 5. So when we send it to the board, we're going to say, this project may not be a big cost, but it's got a high complexity and needs a lot of involvement and should have a team put together like it was recommended by the ad hoc team. So with that said, I'm going to open it up to questions and comments on our NA&Is. We can either raise hands, go to the podium. I prefer going to the podium, but let's see how it goes, and I can always grab that mic and move it over. You can't hear me?
Is that their? They need to come before. Is that their microphone?
No,
Oh, okay, cool.
Standard thing, like standard as you were going to the podium, please give you a name, rank and serial number.
David Florence, Section 3, Lot 128. I just had a question. All this great information in these PowerPoint slides, is that posted on our website or going to be?
Yes, it is. It was posted last Friday
Okay, great. Thanks.
on the LOWA website.
Yeah, thanks to Lori Carter for doing that for us.
It's on the homepage. Lori's
There's
going to tell
a
you.
news item on the homepage that has the links on it, along with your planning committee meeting page, your planning committee page. The top item is linked with your presentation.
Mike Cianci, 1279. Question on the campground. Vested interest here, buddy. Let me tell you, I live right next to it. My neighbors are non-existent or seasonal. Okay. You only hear them coming in and out. That's it. Kind of like that. You said B space. I don't think anybody here knows what B space is.
It's the one in the middle. It's between the where the big campers that are parked next to the bathroom
That's,
and the space where the pavilion is.
so it's the lower side of the,
Yeah.
where it drains down into the creek.
Correct.
Okay. And the other side would be considered RV storage
That's
A. A?
That's a.
Okay,
Yeah.
just needed clarification on that.
Yeah.
And how do we think those houses are going to be set up? They're going to be flag lots? Possibly? Drainage is horrible.
Yeah.
Drainage is absolutely horrible back there.
Do you see what they're building? I really didn't want to get into details.
That's
because
fine.
It's the concept that I'm really, trying to get. But have you seen some of the lots they're building on lately in Lake of the Woods?
Yeah, I've got
We
3
thought
lots next to
never
me.
built on.
I got 3 lots that you can't build on.
Yeah.
They're drainage lots. So I'm just wondering how it's gonna be. In smaller homes, that's,
There is a market. We did some research with some real estate people. There is definitely a market for people that want to buy down. So,
there's there's issues with RSA out there on that side over there. There is no sewage and drainage. In fact, it's a dump site septic side. It's for the RV dump.
mhm.
There may be also some honey holes out there from previous camping expeditions. Yeah, there's,
Find a gold mine yet?
no, haven't found a gold mine, but if you consider brown stuff gold, sure.
No, we putting this thing together, there's a million items for the complexity, but it's the concept that has to go first. Anybody else?
Dave Davies, Section 13, Lot 77, Chair of the Lakes Committee.
this might not win me any friends, but I want to advocate for the most expensive piece on there, the dredger. Um, with a caveat, we've failed to meet our goal for dredging for years. And as Scott mentioned earlier, we met it last year only because we had two outsource projects, the Keaton's Lake and one other. There's no doubt that the long reach excavator would be better than the clamshell that we currently have. But one of our other problems has been personnel. And it's been a difficulty to find and retain a second dredge certified employee. And it seems to me that the dredge operator gets pulled off for all manner of other projects. And so if we spend $500,000 on this excavator and there aren't two people to run the operation, it's going to be money poorly spent. And so I would urge the board to work with management to see if this is going to be able to be used or if it's just going to sit there.
Thank you, Deb. Lady over.
I'm Patricia Lee, Section 7, Lot 42. And I've looked at all the things that are going on, and we have a big thing, the basement of the clubhouse that nobody mentioned. And I think it's really underutilized. And I've been talking to some people, and I said, why don't we meet in the bottom of the clubhouse? There's two problems. A lot of people cannot walk from the parking lot by the fitness center. That's reserved parking. But so we would need to utilize that, some parking spaces for handicapped people that can't walk. You cannot access the basement from the clubhouse because of the stairway going down. A lot of people are older, can't manage the stairway. But we have that big space down there and it's underutilized.
I really appreciate this comment. I'm looking at somebody, I don't know if I can talk about another committee. I'm happen to be on ad hoc committee. And I was asked to go over to the clubhouse 2 weeks ago to see what we can do to expedite something there. I was looking for places to potentially get an elevator. That would be an NA&I. I mean, that would be an NA&I that would come in a lot later down the road. But we are trying to look at the clubhouse to see how we can better access the lower
We
level.
do have a parking spaces outside the lower entrance. There's that seem to be underutilized. They could be easily put special parking places in there.
I thought they are marked handicap, and I think you can use them. Just two? Just a few. I know when I'm part of, but we hear you. And the gentleman sitting over to your left, he hears you too.
I'd like to say thank you to all of you for doing this work, and also to the ad hoc committee for being succinct in coming up with ideas for planning. I would also like to say that I like the idea of putting lights on the basketball court, because that's used a lot and it's used by members that sometimes get ignored that live here in the community. And I think it would be very helpful to be able to have a good sports area available for longer times. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Darcy Jennings, 1492.
Thank you, Darcy. Anybody else? At the end of the meeting, there'll be a slide. It'll have basically my email address. I'll be compiling them and trying to, there will be a lot of duplicates. I know they got a lot of duplicates already. So it's going to take a little culling and hopefully some proper grammar. We could stand up and stretch. Alan used to say that at this point, you know, do we need a break or are we going to push through? Generally, everybody was pushing through. So, okay, push through. People want to get home. I would like Jack Simon to go through what I used to go through last year, which is the LMIP stormwater management that used to be called, where we were, what we started with, and where we are now. So Jack, if you'd start us off on the LMIP. Next slide. There we are. That's what we're talking about. Next slide, please. Thank you, Jack.
So there have been three major iterations in controlling and enhancing our lake water quality. In 2010, there was the Williamsburg Environmental Group, the WEG plan. In 2022, the AMT plan. And since then, the board has used the general manager's working group to rack and stack proposed projects out of the AMT plan and rolled forward on a year-by-year basis as circumstances dictate. We have a 10-year lakes management implementation plan that is rolled forward, and the planning committee and others look at a 5-year bite really strongly. So last year, this slide shows a snapshot of what was the plan. And in February, the board took $188,000 from the Westover Stream Phase 1 and assigned it to the Keaton's Lake off-season dredging project. And they also deferred the 6th Fairway Biodetention, $155,000, to past 2030, and used that money as well to package a very successful vendor project. They removed more sediment in 2 weeks than Lake of the Woods could accomplish in a year. So it was a very good move to attack the fundamental problem of Keaton's Lake, which is the resident sediment, the legacy sediment in the bottom that is contributing to the HABs, or hazardous algae blooms. So hats off for that decision. And now we roll forward. Next slide. M&E took a look at.
Excuse me 1 second, Jack.
Yeah.
We had some handouts for this particular slide because, like all good mechanical people, we try and get as much on a slide as we can. So does anybody need a handout? Okay.
So M&E took a look at the 2022 AMT report, actions taken in 2023 by the board for a 10-year plan. 2024, the plan was changed again, and early in 2025. And you're going to see we took a look at things that were planned but incomplete are shown in red. Things that were deferred by or removed by a decision of the board, and that's struck through in red. There are things that were added by the board, and that's in blue. And so you can see we wonder why LOWA has had difficulties with the lake management plan over time. Well, it's a really complex set of factors. There's about $1 million worth of regular operating tasks, and they're shown as the annual task orders in the first row. There's $15 to $20 million worth of proposed capital projects over 20 or 30 years. And they may be best management practices, stream restoration, or major drainage projects. There's an annual amount reserved for ditch repair and replacement. And inflation comes in or out depending on which chart you use. But when the LMIP plan for this 10 years was in development, The first project, Patrick Henry, was already in design. Obviously, it's not complete, and it has caused delay in other projects. But when you add all of the proposed capital projects, the list runs between $1.5 million and $2 million a year as coordinated with the DMA reserve and replacements. LOWA faces challenges in funding and project management of this complex set of projects, which are the highest priority in LOWA, the management of lakes for healthy water quality. You can see by the slide, there have been many changes and delays. And some have said that this shows that LOWA is an example of the difficulty of managing a long-term plan in a volunteer organization. Well, the M&E committee this year received a revised charter from the board, and it is now responsible for land-based ecology. And the Lakes Committee has everything to the edge of the water. We take everything from the edge of the water onto the land. So the M&E committee currently has 2 proposals in process with the BMP that I talked about earlier, but also the Westover Stream restoration, which you can see it has been the #1 project for the AMT study. And we have proposed a way for this #1 stream restoration to get back on track, be fully funded, and we propose a design year this year using current budget monies. That will go to the board consideration of repairs and replacements, and will be considered in that process toward ultimately the 2026 LOWA Lakes Management Implementation Plan for how they resolve all budget matters this year. So we encourage your thoughts on how these plans should be managed and look forward to your feedback. The process is listed. There's a 10-year plan. It's reduced to a 5-year capital plan, and it's only funded when the board approves budget monies. It then is placed into the budget for operations to execute, and there are maintenance items that come in through the R&R. And you'll see that Ben is going to talk later on the DMA replacement reserve study, and how all this meshes together is how the sausage gets made. Your input is very important. Thank you very much.
Excellent. So I'm going to open it up for a little while on any questions on the LMIP Lake Management Implementation Plan, or stormwater, what it used to be called the stormwater management. Any takers? Got one? Got 2?
Thank you. My name is Trish Burks, and we live at in Section 1, Lot 442. And we had a culvert that was inadequate size installed in 2021. And I understand from Keegan and Fred that it's a priority to replace it. He said this one is severely inadequate in size, which is causing drainage issues in our yard and others. Is there a list of which culverts are going to be replaced and when?
Want me to take that?
Oh, yeah, you can take it.
What's your house address?
It's 203 Edge Hill Drive.
Edge Hill Drive.
Right.
And so would that be in the Culp's Cove drainage area?
It is where the mailboxes are. The cove was replaced and it's very small, so it's backing up water into our yard. So right now, if you drive on Edge Hill Drive, you'll see our most recent gravel in the lake, and it's formed a pretty big berm, which is breeding a lot of mosquitoes too.
And so I don't see Edge Hill Drive on the list of stream stabilizations. I do know that Keegan is surveying all of the culverts and is making his priority list.
Right.
And so if he's got your feedback,
Sure. They came out twice, and then Virginia Soil and Water Conservation said that is causing the issue that makes us have to keep replacing our gravel driveway and our mulch. And anyway, our yard, our sewage all flows directly into the lake. The lid of our sewage, the storms that we had June 14th and July 15th, both washed away our driveway. And the sewage lid floated into the lake. Our sewage floated into the lake.
Understood.
He did say that it was going to be on the top of the priority list. So I'm
Excellent.
just wondering when, because we're gonna replace our driveway for the 4th time, but you know, it's expensive to do it each time. So once that culvert is replaced, we shouldn't have to have the thousands of dollars again and again and again.
So in the operating
Cameron.
budget, they have about $70,000 worth of culvert repair,
Right.
and his input has been to increase that.
Right.
And he's surveying the 430 some culverts that LOWA owns.
Right.
And assigning priorities.
Yeah, I believe he said there were over 70, but we would probably be at the top of the priority list because of the inadequate size that was put in. So anyway, come by Edge Hill Drive and you'll see our driveway right in the lake.
And Keegan has recruited 2 people from M&E to help with the culvert survey.
Mr.
Apparently-
Chairman, I'm happy to
Carolyn
comment on
has a
that.
comment?
Carolyn has a comment. Do you have to get up there, Lisa, to do anything?
Can you hear me?
It's going to work.
Can you hear me?
Can't hear.
Can't hear you, Carol.
Can't hear me? Can you?
Might be,
Nope, still can't
Okay.
hear you.
I suspect they can hear me on Zoom.
Carolyn Browler, Assistant General Manager, or Acting General Manager is on the Zoom call.
Can you hear me yet?
not wanting to work for us. We had a problem at the board meeting yesterday also.
I was gonna say one
We
more,
have the top 6.
you know, is it a documented
List
on
that's
e-maintenance list too? You know, it's always good to at least get it on,
Culverts to replace for DMA reserve.
get it in the system. We have a system
And
for
Edge Hill is one
e-maintenance.
of them.
It goes for everybody, every member, that you can get on the website and document a request for repairs. Unfortunately, I saw my culvert on Wakefield Drive into my easement the other day too, pieces of it. So we are in a community that has a lot of issues with stormwater management. I was on the original committee with Ben, and we do have an issue. I remember 2 years ago, I'm only talking while I'm trying to get Carolyn on the phone.
Can you hear me?
Okay, now we can hear you.
Okay, I texted Lori just in case in the same message, but Lori, it looks like I got it. So I have, we have a list in the DMA reserve, and he's created a GIS map. And Keegan has created a GIS map with the top list of priorities. We have 6 priority culverts that we're trying to plan for in the next fiscal year, starting May 1st. And Edge Hill is one of them.
Tell her to say it again. Tell her to go again.
Try it one more time because
Okay.
the date was the important thing that the homeowner wanted to know.
It'll be budgeted for in the next fiscal year, so it'll be May 1st.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's unfortunate, but that's the way, I hate to say it, the system works here.
Approximately, each culvert costs approximately $30,000 or more, depending on whether we need to upgrade the size or if we have to do ditch work or replace the road. It's $70,000 does not go very far.
And the other thing is basically everything is fiscal year to fiscal year, and that's what we're talking about with the ad hoc committee, was to try and break out some costs for some of the major capital projects to get them into design the year before we actually want to build them. The past projects have always been, okay, we got it approved, the budget is approved, the board said go, let's try and get it done. And that's not the way some of these projects should have worked, but we're trying to work on that now. And sure.
So one of the things that has happened is because the culvert collapsed, the dirt is eroding fast, and I'm watching it out my dining room window every time it rains. That road is being affected, and that road is actually not in front of our property. It's to the left of our property, and there's a vacant lot there, but there are 2 easements on that vacant lot. The water is coming from 3 directions now, from the golf course on Lakeview Parkway, rushing in, and then 2 other areas. And I'd like somebody to take a look at that road because I see it collapsing. I see that there's been a change in just the topography of the road on Edge Hill Drive due to that culvert collapsing and the dirt eroding. So it looks like something's going to happen before May with that road.
I will have Keegan go out and take a look at it as soon as possible.
He joked about, like, do you want your yard and your driveway back? But yeah, we'd love it back, but it's in the lake. So, but thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate it. I know you did respond to me, and I appreciate it when you were quick to respond to my letter. Thank you.
Is there another question on LMIP?
Hi, my name is Megan Jimenez. I live on Patrick Henry Court, and I am directly affected with all of the construction. My house is one of the 2 houses where the pipe comes through from the park to Patrick Henry itself. Earlier, it was stated what priority Patrick Henry was put at, I guess, for this past fiscal year, and I was just curious if that information could be repeated, because at this point, we're almost a year into the project. Notifications keep coming out from LOWA saying that it's 98% complete. None of us on that street can figure out anything about it. We're not communicated with it as far as any updates that I was promised by Michael Armstead that we would receive. Trying to get any answers for any of it has not happened. So I was just curious to see what that priority was and why it seems that other things seem to be getting done faster than this project that was only supposed to take 5 or 6 months.
I cannot answer that. I know you just got the ear of 2 board members that hopefully will respond to you. I think I'm getting a nod.
I was just curious to have the information as to what the priority was of it.
The priority was, it was the #1 project for the LMIP.
Okay.
And was in process when we had the LMIP groups put together. We said, this is already designed. They've already allocated bought some property for it. So we all voted, that's #1. Let's get this one done. Michael got, did we learn some lessons on this? Yes, we learned some lessons. Let's not jump into a project anymore without a full geotechnical report on where rock is. And that seems to have been the major hang up, but there are other major hangups. As Jack said, we have a program now, it's before the board, where basically it's a group that's put together that stays with the project from design, development, award, construction, and closeout, including all documents relating to the closeout. And this is for, relating to a building or relates to site work. Part of it is also making sure that we've communicated better. That would be part of that group. So I can't apologize too much for the past. Yes, I'll apologize. It wasn't part of the committee, but I still apologize. But we are trying to do better.
Now, is there anybody else that is stepping up and trying to find out any? You say there's a committee for this and.
I see another
obviously it
board member
hasn't-
just raised his hand, so he's going to answer your question. Oh, there's two more board members back there. Oh, yeah, we got five tonight.
Hello, I'm Frank Heisler. I'm one of the new board members. And you'll read about this in this week's Lake Current, but I have been tasked from the president of the board to look into Patrick Henry. I have spent a considerable amount of time in the last week and a half digging into contracts, going through everything. As of today, I think you saw some work starting back over there. Carolyn has been involved in this with Michael as well. We will be getting weekly status reports on what the work effort is happening over there. I will tell you there are 40 open punch list items right now. They're big, but there is still funding to keep it moving right now. What I've asked is that the contractor continue to work that punch list with Michael directing him with weekly status reports. And I'm hopeful that we will start to see some of the major items that are open there. Some of the open cement receptacles, getting their caps, getting clothes out there. I have walked the grounds. I have been through the neighborhood, and I plan to stay on top of this. So hopefully that will help. And I know LEAP has a lot of history on this as well, but that's what's currently happening right now. So if there's any questions, certainly feel free to email me at the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Well, one of the joys of being on the board is you get to inherit what other people start. There were two people who voted not to do the front gate in Patrick Henry Court in the same year. I was one of them, but that's two people out of 7. So we did 2. And then I had to own the execution all last year of Patrick Henry Court. We probably are going to end up spending the amount of money that we should have put aside for it in the first place. If the right level of geotechnical testing had been advocated by our engineering firm, we would have ended up spending probably what we're going to end up spending. We would have known that ahead of time, and we would have potentially had to then push that project off for a few more years while we tried to accumulate the funds for it. On top of the rock challenges, we also had a lot of rain this past summer. That tied up a lot of things. We also have challenges getting vendors to come work for us because our projects in many cases aren't of a sufficient size to attract the kinds of vendors who have more of that background and capability. But this vendor was vetted and had the requisite skills to do the work. There's no one answer as to why it hasn't been successful. Is it doing what it's designed to do? We're seeing that as water's coming into the system, it's flowing in the right directions, but as Frank mentioned, it's not completed yet. And we desperately, probably only the folks who live on Patrick Henry Court want to get that completed more than the board does. To put it behind us and to not do something like this again, right? This was a perfect example of something that we should have outsourced in its entirety because it's just not in our core competencies. We all can't afford to pay what it would cost to staff up to have the kinds of people we would need to do this type of a project. So the short answer is you've got a new board, the majority of the board now that doesn't have any background in this. They're going to step in and they've appointed someone with a depth, extreme depth of project management and portfolio management experience. Frank will figure out what are the last things that need to get accomplished. The other thing that ties us up sometimes is RSA, and RSA had some pipes that weren't appropriately marked. We didn't find out about it till they found out about it, and then, oh yeah, that's where one of our pipes is, so now we've got to relocate it. So there have been challenges, and it's a poster child for why this type of work is something that we should outsource and not do ourselves.
Any other, one more?
Hi, Lena Fowler, section 9. Hey, neighbor, lot 70. I don't know that you guys can answer it, but maybe you can. Who should we contact if we need something done immediately when they're leaving stuff so much in the road that, one, we were discussing a fire truck wouldn't even have been able to get down the road. Two, my father is on dialysis. He does it every night and he could not get his supplies. And that was left that way for a couple of days. So who would I be able to reach out to immediately so that that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, so if you run into those kinds of issues, the first 2 calls, make one call to the general manager and she'll get a hold of our maintenance people. And in this case, the capital projects manager, Michael Armstead, or somebody on that staff will liaise with the contractor. The other call would be to security, and security can get somebody out there quicker in most cases, get whoever the patrol officer is out there to talk to the contractor about getting the road open. And with Chief 29 there, he's got a vested interest. Well, the reality is we don't want people having to drive through folks' front yard. But yes, I understand. But I mean, if that's happening after hours, then make the first call to security. And if we have to, they'll work through the GM and get the vendor to come back in and deal with whatever's being left behind. If you see that starting to happen, or you think that's getting ready to happen towards the close of business, call the GM's office and let somebody know so that we can make sure that that doesn't happen. And, you know, Frank and there are, I think, 4 different board members sitting here right now, or 5 of us. That word will get passed along to the contractor to say, you know, you need to ensure that the through traffic can actually pass, whether that's, you know, personal vehicles or whether that's a fire truck.
Yeah. Can we take this conversation maybe offline, or because it's, we're gonna, I know it's important, but we have an agenda that we want to get through too. So maybe you can grab Leaf or Frank out in the hallway. Be fine with me. Other than that, are there any more questions as it relates to the current LMIP plan, proposed plans, and what M&E and Jack presented? Okay. We said this year, the M&E committee, their charter was changed a little bit. They have more responsibilities for what's happening on the land as it relates to the LMIP. And they also have been tasked with following through on the R&R budget a little bit more and what's happening with the R&R. So with that said, in the past years, it was always the planning committee presented anything that was over $100,000 on the R&R budget. This year, I've asked Ben Barreau, the chair of the M&E committee, to do that presentation and probably field some of the questions, because as Ben will tell you, we just got a 260.
No, 607.
607. There were full reports. I didn't quite get them, but through them. But they came in last Thursday, and I asked Ben, okay, put together the slides. So here's Ben Barreau, chair of the M&E committee.
Oh, is this on? Okay. First off, I am not the chair yet. We haven't had formal elections. Jack is still notionally the chair up until 4 October, when he transitions off the committee and becomes chairman emeritus. So we have supposed to have our election on 7 October.
And they think I'm gonna be the chair, but who knows what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna talk about the repair replacement reserve projects over 100K. Like we did before, this is there's a skinny down version of 251 pages. Then there's a 671 that has all the meat behind it. I've been going through it, but my eyes start to cross after about an hour staring at it, so I have to stop. So, but why do we have a reserve fund? Well, part of the problem is it's part of the Virginia Homeowners Association Act that we have a reserve to repair and maintain our assets in the community. There's a process. It requires a full study over 5 years. In between interim years, we do assessments lights where we're basically looking at our equipment, looking at our conditioner equipment. But every 5 years, somebody comes in, they actually have to touch the equipment, make sure that it's all in our database, and they basically run their particular models. There is no designated automatic replacement. Essentially, the staff works to update the data every year. The last study was done, dated around middle of February. That was the basis for the 2025-2026 budget. Is now 19 September, we have an updated version. The staff's been going through updating the version, updating the data, moving things around, assessing for condition equipment. What you're going to find is what was in the budget, what's in an updated version, they don't quite match. And we're still going through trying to figure stuff out. People have identified, like Mr. Ho, that some of the stuff identified in the after action reports to Clubhouse has not made it into repair and replacement reserve data. And there are other things like playgrounds, which may not have been updated correctly either. We have to basically run the ground to figure out, is this stuff in there? Are we counting for it correctly? In particular, the clubhouse, not everything that's on the list was replaced what was supposed to be. So we have like clubhouse doors, there are like 13 of them, but only 3 of them were replaced. But how are they tracking for the 10 that weren't replaced? Now there's a way to do it. I looked at the database. You can have sub entries for things to basically track things, but they haven't done that for the clubhouse and have done for the playground. There's a playground. So like right now it's $121,000 estimated, but you've got like 4 or 5 large components hiding in there, which are, and we went through the 2023 playground goat rope. Some stuff was replaced or some other things. How is that accounted for? The life cycles are not all the same for equipment in that particular group. So we're working through those things. I think we have about 4 or 5 days to get our updates back to the financial manager. We'll see what we can do. But again, this is a living document. It's updated every year and it's probably updated every 6 months. So here is the current. Now this is my 5 milliwatt laser. Careful, Dave, this is not the 500 megawatt we talked about at the Lakes Committee. So I'm sorry, but you can't see this behind me, but this is the only way I can face and still talk to people. So here's the notional outlay profile, which shows our repair and replacement reserve assets. There's our required threshold line. This is yellow. The green is what we particularly are as our balance. And the red is what we plan has a spending in a year. Now, threshold balance is somewhere around 3.5 to 2.5 million, depending on the year. But again, this is over 40 years worth of data. And inflation is not our friend because basically prices out here are getting big. You're saying, wait a minute, we only need about threshold amount of about $4 million. We've got a balance of about $14 million. Why is it so high? Well, the problem is out here. We have some, by the plan, remember this is the plan, we have a huge number of, in dollar terms, of replacements in that year. The big items are the irrigation system, phase 1 of the irrigation system. There's actually 2 phases of the irrigation system. That's a $2 million hit per year. The Route 3 fence replacement, that's $640K estimated per year. One of the 15-ton air conditioning units is now estimated to be at $153,000 in that time frame. Now, I have no idea what's going to happen to the technology between now and then. We might be using air conditioning. Maybe something else. Don't know. But this is the best a guess. It's basically use a rigorous process to collect all our assets, assign a notional useful life based on data from other classes of assets. What we think the remaining useful life is of the asset. And then it has some factors about inflation and some factors about notional investment return rates. Now, when I was in the Fort Fumble, we call this in a 5-6 year, anything out here was what they call Palm Never Land. We have no idea what that's going to be. And out here, we have no idea what this is going to be. So this is at best a guess. If you want to get it, what's the inflation rate? You want 20 different inflation rate estimates? Ask just 5 economists. They will give you different ones. So this is the best of guess. It's a structured method. Data is updated every year based on actual conditions and stuff is added. We've also basically are now folding in the LMIP projects because those now become improvements that will have to be accounted for in the repair and replacement reserve. Next slide, please. So this is the 2025-2026. Some of the more astute of you may know this is not what was in the capital plan for 2025-2026, because this is based on as a September 19th snapshot, and database was essentially locked around February this year. So things have changed. But important point to consider, these numbers have changed. Some are slightly but the total value of capital number has not changed. In February, it was $2,550,971,000. It's the same value this year. So they essentially, the staff has moved the pieces around inside that bubble, but the total is still the same. So the fact that it doesn't match the thing doesn't really matter because, statistically, the fact that they're going to spend that much on roads, the probability of that being true is 0. So, the tar and chip phase, section 3, section 8, 9, 30, that's in process now. They've done 13 and they're starting to work on 8, I believe. Now, at the last M&E committee meeting, there was some concern that they were not going to be able to get that done before the weather turned. It became too cold to apply tar. But they're now halfway through, I think, phase section 8. And if the weather holds, they may get it all done this year. If not, we're recommending that they probably start beginning of May of next year, but they may have to bring in contract support to get the work done. At the same time, in the past, the last 5 years, we have been not doing full course tar and chip rework. We've been doing spot repairs. It was done as basically to free up some money for other higher priority projects. Starting this year, they're now doing full course edge to edge tar and chip because the roads need it. So also in here is the Westover Stream Stabilization. This is the phase 2 money. The phase 1 money, as already mentioned, was taken off to go fund the off-season Kings Lake dredging operation. So the M&E committee recommended, and I think the Lakes Committee concurred, that we basically take some of this money, $40,000, do a preliminary design, because we cannot talk to the homeowners of the lots that will be touched without having designed what we're proposing to do, and then get a revised cost estimate from a real professional cost estimator to figure out what this thing is really supposed to cost, and then decide to go forward. If they decide to go forward, they're going to have to add the additional amount plus whatever the cost estimate figures out, make this thing come to fruition. Now you notice culvert replacements. Jack's plan, the LMIP had like $70K for culverts. This is inflation adjusted numbers. This is now 101. So the LMIP numbers are basically base year 2022. They have not been escalated up to their current year. And like we said, the best bang for your buck is basically combine 2 years worth of culvert money, basically get a big contract to get 4 culverts versus this model, only get 3. So next slide, please. This is 2028. Again, Keaton's Playground, that's going to be replaced. Tar and Chip, another one. Again, prices seem to increase, but we're also including the lower clubhouse lot. Ditch restoration, culvert replacements, the number's gone up. I'm one of the guys working with Keegan. Al Arnold is the other person that we're basically doing surveys of all the culverts inside Lake, culvert, association owned culverts inside Lake of the Woods. There are 416. They have not really been looked at since about, we think, the 2022 AFT study. And Keegan thought, based on first of all, 40, about 10% or about 25% of the culverts were deficient. So we're going through trying to get all these things done so we get a list of what culverts have problems, and then we can go figure out a plan how to address it. Are we going to be able to replace everything in a year? No, we can't afford it. But can we get the high priority ones that have most impact on people? Take the money, but the board has to make the decision where it's going to go. I need to basically go back and check because I may have fat fingered the wrong number here. I'm suspicious that this number and that number are the same. So mea culpa, I'll go look at it. Yeah. So unless that was the way in the report. All right, next slide, please. Yeah. Sorry. It's oh, okay. Back up, please. One more. 2026. This 2020, all this data is on the 2026 year of the sheet of the repair replacement reserve. But some of this money is actually being executed now. So again, you're getting calendar year, fiscal year. What year are they talking about repair replacement reserve? So next slide, please. We'll go back. Keep going. All right. The big meatball that's in repair and replacement reserve in the near term is replacing of the mailboxes. Now, that number right now is a 2-year project over 2 years. It's 924,000. Now, people are asking the question, who was pushing to replace the mailboxes? People said these mailboxes appear to be functional. We can still use them. They were saying the post office was. Well, Al Arnold, met with some of the mail deliverers, and he also participated in phone con with the postmaster, and they're not pushing to replace the mailboxes. They would like some additional parcel boxes because the regular mail volume seems to be going down, but the number of packages seems to be going up. But they're not pushing for wholesale replacement. And we also verified that based on nameplate data, that these mailboxes are still available for purchase. Parts are available. So the impetus to have to replace these things are not, they're not going to turn into pumpkins overnight. We don't have to do this right away. And at the same time, this is a very complex project because you have the post office involved and you have all the members involved because you have all the keys. And however you do the control of the keys is probably the long pole in the tent. Actually changing the mailboxes, probably done in a day. You just unbolt them, pull them, put new ones in. Getting the keys and the key cores moved around, it's tough. And we have to rely on the members doing what's needed to be done so that it moves smoothly. And I don't think we can guarantee that's going to happen. The other problem is, well, and we'll keep going. So we have not been doing maintenance on these things. So we may not be able to do it right away. We have to plan on doing maintenance to these boxes, repair them, replace keys and locks were required. Apparently, we were informed that there was a person who actually could do welding on the boxes to maintain the structural integrity. We have to find a guy to do that again. So we may have to spend some money, but we don't have to spend the whole enchilada this year or those 2 years. Next question. The next one, please. So refinement. Again, these things, it's a living document. It's refined on a daily basis. They basically go back and change things. Something happens, something may be added, something may be taken off, but it's a dynamic list. But remember, the key part is that dollar portfolio value for the year, 2,055,971. That's the number they're trying to live inside for this particular year. Now, from a portfolio point of view, they can move the chairs around as they want, as long as they get that stuff done inside that top line value without asking for more money. So again, the board gets these stuff, and they'll move slide around. The reason we went DMA, they had an online tool. They can basically move the deck chairs around to basically get stuff to fit in with their priorities. Next question, next slide, please. So any questions on proposed R&R projects? See you, Dave.
Dave, you didn't get the answer you wanted, but thank you, Ben. I realize that the R&R is made up of I don't want to say 1 million, but it comes pretty close to it. It's a lot of numbers. It's something that has to be looked at all the time. I'm sorry it's not more enthusiastic, but it's probably, that's the meat and potatoes of our budget, really. And that's what keeps our community going, is replacing it and repairing it. So sorry, you had to deliver the message, Ben, but that's okay.
Get used to it.
Okay, where do we go from here? I think that's my next slide. Next steps, okay. Getting back to the NA&Is. October 12th to 6th, Planning Committee discusses, we used to say, what did Alan say? Discuss and discuss. Okay, that's what Alan used to say. We are in the process of doing that now. We've had some preliminary votes. I have to send out the another chart where we want to vote on well, basically it's on this one, it's a rounded, the average for the complexity. And we have to get that over to the board when we submit these NA&Is. So I'm really talking to the planning committee at this point. We still have work to do. I have to call out all the questions and answers that I'm going to receive after everybody's been so gracious to be here tonight. And you're going to be sending me all sorts of questions on it. And on October 15th, I'm supposed to send the board a letter of our recommendations from my committee to the board on the NA&Is. Even though our charter said November 1st, somebody put in October 15th. So, and then on December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, if you really want to have a great time for those couple of days, we have a joint meeting with the planning committee and the finance committee and every budget operations group in management, and they present the budget, the proposed budget for 26, 27. So if you really want to have a good time, that there's nothing really happening on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, join us. And then from there on, the GM will be back and forth with the board, and they'll be going back and forth, put this in, take this out, try this, try that. And then when they finally vote on the budget, that's when I can send out the letters to say, sorry, guys, loved your NA&I, but maybe next year you might have to submit it again. And then on the first day of May is our new fiscal budget, and we've already gotten our letters on assessments. That's when most people wake up. Do you think anybody really is going to send me that many questions on between now and December? No. When they get their assessment bill, that's when all of a sudden, where did all this come from? We've started in July on this process. So, I won't say anything on social media about it. Next slide, please, which is the last slide. Right. I agree with you. As I'm saying, please send it to me in writing. I will take all the information I get. I'm going to cull it. We do have a tremendous amount already. There's a lot of duplications. So it goes to the board. I will try and make the grammar correct and put it in. We put in the NA&Is in priority. And all I can say is thank you very much for being here. And I don't need a motion to adjourn. Thank you.